production on that champion. Finally picking up the wins to go along with the mechanics, though. But the first bang, it's much the same. Still respecting that Rise.
Yep, so M3 and EP here going to swap sides, of course, for our second game as we jump into the draft. The Rise banned away, like you mentioned, but Cho'Gath, another addition, and I believe the same ban that EP had already.
So banned away there against Raphael. Raphael's Ahri's been available a lot, but I feel like Ahri's kind of moved out the meta alongside all the other assassins and pseudo-assassins like the likes of LeBlanc. Thresh ban is very interesting, though.
Yeah, M3 ban away, but Love City actually getting a ban there, and Shu kind of banning himself a little bit there with the ban away, but clearly valuing the champion. Lulu, another ban away here from Raphael, I believe, and Xerath, another self-ban.
They're looking for the Azir first pick is all I can take away from this draft. To ban away two of your own champions. Urgot is the final ban. Obviously showing so much respect towards Zhang Ao's Urgot. I guess potentially Raphael's Urgot as well. Urgot, one of the remaining flex picks after the likes of the Sandra have definitely moved out of the meta. Feels like flex picks in general have kind of to go by the wayside as everyone wants to play tanks everywhere with Smite if possible. And I don't know about Darius, but it's always possible.
I mean, it's not bad in any sort of tank meta, but I think your intuition very strong for this particular draft, Papa Smoothie. Makes sense with the way EP have flooded out the first few picks. They give it a little bit more time to make sure this is exactly what they want to do, but Dade will have to show us a new champ because Azir is EP's first pick.
I mean, there's no reason to ban away the Xerath unless you want to play Azir, because, I mean, look, Dade plays both these champions. Xerath has a good laning matchup against Azir with equal or even more pressure from the Azir, so makes sense to ban it away. There could be no other first pick. That opens up some other priority picks, and Kallista's certainly one of them. Yeah,
I mean, more red side Kallista possibly coming through. This was a very similar look to the early picks for EP in the first game here in the best of two. Condi might go back to the Gragas. I loved, again, his jungle play. And, you know, Dade had a great performance, don't get me wrong, but everyone on the team played fantastically, SMLZ especially, so it is going to be Callista Gragas.
And you feel like Gragas is the answer to all control mages. We already talked about how it works against Xerath. Anyone who's about wave clear, like those control mages, whether it's the Orianas, the Anivias, even the Azirs of the world, anyone who wants to set up a locus of power that the enemy team has to pass through to get to a hyper carry, just bounce them out of any sort of locus with that Gragas ultimate. So I feel like going forward, this is probably going to be a common thing. Gragas early game, a lot of damage in the, let's say, level 3, level 4, much like a Lee Sin. Definitely transitions to pure utility earlier, but that utility, that explosive cast does so many things so well.
It does, and EP, steal away M3's bottom lane from the last game. The Graves Annie, will return here, but on the other side this time, SMLZ and Love City really made it work in game 1, so we'll see what M3 do want to answer with. They've got the Maokai open. It was banned in the last game. Looper is going to pick it up, and that is probably supporterless.
Supporterless is a possibility coming through. Yes, it's locked in. You have to expect supporterless with the Gragas already being locked in. I mean, this is the LPL, so this could all swap around, but going for the very early power spike top laner. Don't let that teleport, ignite, summon a spell choice really surprise you. I believe this will be swapped up to the flash teleport as far as we know. The power spikes are changing, so the question is, 5th pick. What are they looking for the mid lane? That's the big question mark. Fizz is being hovered, a lot of things being suggested here. Fizz against Maokai, that's what Zatai showed us first for IG. It's a very good laning matchup, especially if you get going early with a jungle game.
Yep, and they are going to take it away here. Fizz and Nunu are EP's last few picks here in M3. Giving the last pick over to Dade makes a lot of sense. Give your star player the counter pick there for his lane, but strength here for EP across the board with the Azir there in mid. Wonder what Dade wants to play against it with his Xerath ban.
I'm going to be hoping that it's the Zed. I think this Dade Zed makes a lot of sense in this situation. There's no big tanky side lane pusher that Zed can't deal with. They're going to consider assassins. That's all I'm going to expect in this situation. LeBlanc's a possibility. Dade actually showed a very good LeBlanc performance on his last time out. In this situation where you don't necessarily have health stackers on EP, LeBlanc's a fine choice.
I mean, not a champion that we used to associate with Dade, I feel like, but something that as he's played up more and more in the LPLs, he does lock in the LeBlanc. Something that Dade's become better and better at. He's a mechanically brilliant player. He does certainly master champions, and it feels like over the course of one split of the LPL, he might have finally mastered LeBlanc.
I feel like you could finally say that he's pulled LeBlanc into his champion, but with his last couple of performances on that champion, has looked convincing. Previously, it felt like an overreach, but LeBlanc is definitely moving towards the champion mastery that only Dade can really be accused of. You look at someone like Faker, who picks up a champion and is already a god at it on his first performance. His average level performance is super high. Can't say the same thing about Dade. Picks up a champion the first couple times, you're like, really? But after that, he really starts to add them to his pool. And the LeBlanc is pushing towards that stage.
But a big carry there for Fizz, actually, there for Amazing J as Drizzle. You know, take the Nunu this time, something we used to see a bit more for him as Condi gets his Gragas for the jungle once again.
I mean, it's interesting to see a low-pressure jungler like Nunu come out in the mid lane. I mean, Azir's going to be hanging back and ceding lane control to Dade on that LeBlanc. The AD carry matchup, honestly, it's very similar, except we're seeing kind of pressure with pressure in the support role. Of course, it's the reversed AD carry matchup, but Supportless comes out to try and deal with all the pressure of the Annie.
Yeah, I mean, Nautilus kind of weird, only good at going in, not very good defensively, doesn't really have that much peel. Can CC someone for a long time, so in extended trades with a Kalista, you can get a lot of damage done there. So interesting stuff, and that mid lane especially, definitely one to watch.
Yeah, definitely one to watch. Can Dade really set up a carry on LeBlanc? We've seen him have previous games where he got going on LeBlanc, but couldn't snowball any of his other lanes, so a fed LeBlanc in a tank meta, not always the best, but in this kind of squishy lineup being picked by EP, there's a lot of potential for Dade to really get going this game.
We'll see if Dade can in fact get going. We're about to get into game 2. And we're onto the Rift here for our second game, between Energy Pacemaker and Master3 here. M3 upper game so far, looking for the 2-0 and the 3 points as they push towards playoffs, and EP going to play upset once again.
And the M3 cheer squad definitely could be heard loud through your monitors, but World Elite on the other side of the coin, we know how many fans they have in China. They'll be hoping and praying that EP can put it together, and you have to think, and this should be no surprise to any long-time viewers of either the LPL or the LSPL, if they're going to win, it's going to be all about Amazing J on this top lane hyper carry Fizz.
Yeah, has a massive carry job to do here on the Fizz. We've seen the matchup before. You mentioned Zatai from Invictus Gaming. He was the one that really put carry top lane Fizz on the map against the Maokai specifically, but Lupa, a strong player, navigates well. Dade will face check Drizzle there, but gets a couple wards down and pretty safe to trade autos with a Nunu. The Raphael is coming in. Dade forced to distort away.
So the first time we saw this matchup, it was Invictus Gaming like we mentioned, and Zatai completely ran all over the enemy Maokai. But we saw this matchup a second time. Sorry, I forget who the teams were. But actually, the Maokai got to a decent item threshold. There was a lane swap. He showed into lane with a Spectre's Cowl, moving towards a bit more magic resistance, and did just fine against the Fizz. So I don't know if it's as one-sided as Zatai showed in that matchup, but especially if the jungle attention is to help the Fizz, to help him get going, there's a lot of potential for Fizz in this matchup.
We're going to have standard lanes here as well. Gromp finished there by M3 as they share the experience. They're about half a level each. Only the small Krug taken away for EP, so not quite as far ahead. So M3 coming in will have a very slight but significant experience lead.
And the first thing to know is that standard lanes this game, because we saw the lane swap initiate in the previous game. Dade and Raphael going aggressive. Dade doesn't have the highest base stats, but they continue trading.
Yeah, a bit aggressive to trade autos with Nazira's LeBlanc there, but Love City going level 2, forcing the flash from Shu, which was done very well to get away.
Absolutely skilled and threw out the dredge at the same time, but still the reactive flash came through from Annie. That saved her life, you'd have to think. Even at level 2, plenty of trade damage coming from in the mid lane and the bot lane.
Yeah, Dade, they're getting on top with the Sigil plus the Distortion, so starting to bully early as Condi now going to rotate in on top of the Annie now for a level 2 gank here as a bit of pressure comes in. No flash going to make it tricky, but stun lands in there. Buckshot goes through as Zangao comes in. Annie auto might be enough. He'll use there as well, and Condi just survives.
I don't think the happy hour is available. Only now available, so would have died to one more Ignite tick. Condi, you could see what he wanted to do. So much CC in the lane, even at level 2 from the Nautilus. Almost bit his demise, though. But M3, they take a deep breath and try and reset.
Yeah, behind on experience now, level 3 done for Drizzle. Condi level 2 for that gank. So
can't even pick up a jungle item on his first back. Just able to pick up some wards. Might help his lanes, but it's definitely going to delay any sort of power spike for Condi.
Drizzle going to waddle down to the bottom side as well for a potential gank as Looper in the top gets on top of Amazing J. Just a bit of early Maokai pressure.
I mean, before you get a few points in your C-Zone Trident W, you can't really look to trade with Maokai. He has good bases, very high base attack damage. Drizzle's come in unsighted, though.
Good stealthy move there for Drizzle. Uses the snowball onto Love City. That's going to force the flash. SMLZ playing aggressively into them, though. Pierce comes through. Great Ren there for 3 good bouts of damage. And a decent gank by Drizzle, but great pressure by Kalista.
So much respect shown to the auto-attack CC of Nautilus, though. They moved away as soon as they could when they didn't register the initial damage. Not sure if level 2, now level 3 Norse deserves quite that much respect, but they certainly didn't want to try and get any sort of negative trend going in the bottom.
Dade slightly ahead on CS, but will be evened up by Raphael's Azir now as well. Both these players actually have been known for these two champions throughout the LPL, so have gotten a lot better, and we've seen some pretty hilarious stuff for LeBlanc. As down the bottom, a hook does land, but Drizzle now flashing snowball there onto Love CD. No Fade's Goal can't protect him, but going to keep moving in. Love CD will go down there for first blood. Now SMLZ will get chased in as well. Good stun moving in. Drizzle going to try and follow through, but does flash away.
Yeah, importantly, did get the flash. Looked like Nunu was moving away, so maybe didn't have to use it, but he couldn't have known that. So getting all the summoners in bottom is a very successful return gank from a Nunu, especially not known for his early pressure, but damned if it didn't look good there.
And it's 2 games in a row, and that is 2 first bloods for Graves in the bottom side. Not too surprising given the champion's prowess in lane early on especially, but Raphael now starting to scale up in the mid lane, and Dade forced to play quite a bit further behind.
I guess what I want to see from SNLZ is definitely to rush towards a single item. We saw previous game, it was all about the BS sort into recurve bone. Although those 2 items are great when they're completed, when you have just the parts, the power spike is so significantly delayed. Even though Bloodthirster first doesn't feel like a lot of pressure, at least you can stay and sustain in lane. So I prefer just focusing on one or the other.
Condi going to get forced out of the jungle. Level 3 actually on the Gragas, so quite behind there. Against Drizzle, actually. Drizzle's a level or a level and a half ahead there as he takes away his own Gromp. Condi struggling here in the early stages on Gragas. Not the same pressure he showed earlier, and Dade now harassed out by Raphael. Good CS, but forced to go back to base.
Kind of the crazy thing about Azir, at least in the first few weeks on patch 5.2, was that it seemed like on average Azir was winning the LeBlanc matchup just because, again, you distort in. You're distorting into Sand Soldier damage, a lot of trading potential. It's very hard to win trades against Raphael unless you max the Q, which nobody wants to do on LeBlanc. You want to get that distortion onto his lower cooldown, as much AoE potential as possible. So they're getting punished in that situation. Dade's struggling in this mid lane.
I mean, the early Chalice might help him here, but it's going to be the same story for Raphael when he gets his Chalice there, which he does go back and now pick up. It's also very funny to see LeBlanc go in and get ulted out by Azir, because you just can't distort past Emperor's Divide once it's out. So there's definitely a lot of intricacies to the matchup, but LeBlanc, at least early, and if she's played smart, can get ahead of Azir. But
you really need a bit of jungle pressure to cement the kill pressure, and the jungle pressure has already been significantly delayed. Unfortunately, Dade has to deal with the fact that Connie's going to have little to no pressure for at least the next 4 or 5 minutes while he's working his way towards level 6, still level 3, awkwardly at the 7-minute mark.
Yeah, finally gets the Trailblazer, so clear times will speed up a bit, but Drizzle, no cares in the world. Sightstone done before major jungle item completed. Just the machete there for Nunu, and this is all about Nunu's flexibility. He's very versatile, very low item thresholds, and Drizzle taking full advantage of that.
But despite that, you usually trade that low item threshold for just not having a lot of early ganking pressure, but he's already successfully ganked the bottom as successfully as possible, taking out all summoners, picking up a kill. And so the fact that he's out-ganking, but also just doing his Nunu thing and just being a bit of a killjoy from the jungle, bodes poorly for Master3.
Yeah, we talked about Gragas being able to bully out some of these tanky junglers in the early levels.
Nobody bullies out the Yeti.
No, Nunu bullies you. That's the point of the jungler, as EP are on top of the dragon. Should be an easy confirm here, with Drizzle having both consume and smite.
Not even sure what Gragas is doing. Just needs to get out of there. Start power farming those camps. You need that blue buff. Secure it now before the potential exit towards your blue buff from the EP team.
Yeah, and there's the dragon coming through for energy Pacemaker. Maybe Condi just missed the Scuttle Crab there as Dade pops back in there. Wave clearing nicely under turret here, but Raphael starting to mount the pressure. That tower in mid's already quite unhealthy.
If you're relegating a LeBlanc to wave clear duty against a control mage like Azir, you've already won this mid lane matchup. So Dade, the last pick, LeBlanc, it feels like he's been outdone just by the fact that Condi's not able to have any jungle pressure whatsoever. Even being outganked by a Nunu, it's really flowed on to Dade. If he secures the blue buff, that's at least something, but it's the minimum he would have expected from a jungle Gragas in terms of pressure.
And Condi honestly would have maybe preferred the buff at this stage, although has caught up a little bit in experience. Not quite level 6 yet, but farming up nicely with the Trailblazer. Going to go back now and work in towards the Barmy Cinder for that Cinder Hulk. And things fairly even. Loop actually had a nice lead there in the top side, so holding down the Fizz as well as back in the bottom lane. More aggression here, but Drizzle's back there. Fate's Call forced to use there, and SMLZ will save his support.
It's a cute thing about any sort of Kalista matchup. Against a Thresh, it's the opposite situation. You do need to focus the support, but against a Kalista, gotta focus the AD carry because she's the one to provide the defensive utility.
Yeah, back in mid, Raphael still bullying a bit. isn't able to get a big CS lead here, but keeping Dade away as he goes being very aggressive. Raphael uses the ulti, but Dade distorts away. Flash Ignite forward there for Raphael. Auto attacks coming in, and Dade gets low. Ignite will confirm the kill, and a misstep gives Raphael a solo kill.
The last tick of Ignite wasn't enough to kill Condi at level 2, but is enough to take down Dade again. It was a game of inches, so close to living in that situation, but the flash into the Sand Soldier position with the W was enough damage.
Just too aggressive there from Dade, trying to get a kill, but over-forcing in a lane where he sort of has to sit back and relax. And yeah, that's not exciting for LeBlanc, but unfortunately for Dade, that's the matchup right now.
It's just a mindset thing too. When you pick a mage into a control mage, you're thinking, I gotta punish this guy. He's gone for the scaling option. I need to take advantage of my earlier power spikes. But in doing that, and just ignoring the fact that you've had lower jungle pressure, that you're against a control mage that actually matches up very well against your kit, he's getting punished. And in the top lane, we see Fizz finally starting to get a bit of lane control. You have to respect that Sheen purchase. So much mixed damage every time that Season Trident W is active.
Yeah, expecting the Trinity Force first tier for Amazing J, although it does have a pretty respectable amount of AP right now on the Fizz, so possibly some hybrid action going on with the runes and masteries early on. Have to look at the jungle matchup though. I didn't point it out last game, but it was the same. It's Trailblazer versus Skirmisher Saber. Now, Skirmisher Saber on Jarvan last game, okay, I can kind of get behind it, but on Nunu, Papa Smithy?
Honestly, Nunu doesn't really scale in any discernible way, so just going for those auto attacks. He wants to get his Visionary passive active whenever possible. He does auto attack a lot, so okay, it won't always be used on enemy champions, but it's an option.
Raphael coming in now as well. Drizzle will chase Condi out of his own jungle, and you can see the experience is a bit closer now as Dade CS is there in the mid, trying to get the minions out from under that turret, but Condi's been pressured now, even with Drizzle and Raphael starting to walk into his jungle.
See the trading continuing top. Loop is still very healthy. I mean, the previous choice on the Nunu would have been the Trailblazer, just for a bit of AoE clear, but now Cinderhulk means that you already have AoE clear, so go for Skirmisher's Saber, and hell, you get a bit of auto attacks on, you throw the challenging smite onto the enemy AD carry, reduces damage due by 20%, just pop your ult, and you're still doing just the same job.
Yeah, Saber been very popular for a reason, quite strong here on the patch.
It just does so many things, Patient. That's the weird thing. It does damage, it reduces enemy damage, gives you a reveal that, of course, works for your teammates. Probably does too many things. Maybe just remove one of those effects, because, hell, it's really damn good at the moment. That's why we're seeing it even in the top lane.
Yeah. Makes sense there as the Krugs do get taken away by Graves Annie. No other kills are forthcoming here in the bottom side, despite the pickaxe lead for Zhang there. Sentinel going to get chopped away there by Annie's auto attacks. And again, SMLZ just farming, but doing well here. Not super behind against the Graves, and only the one kill. It's been a passive lane for the bottom side, but that likely favors M3's duo.
So you look over these comps and work out, where does the scaling really advantage in the late game? You'd be forgiven for thinking EP just because they have the Azir against LeBlanc, and I do agree with that, but you look down their lineups, not really a tanky lineup. You feel like Callista's Renset could be really impressive as Love CD, because for an interesting interaction there, Condi hasn't been spotted. We could suddenly see 8 members in the bot lane before too long.
3v3, Drizzle even doing the same thing. Both these junglers waiting in the brush, a standoff almost here, as you can see. Can't see Gragas, can't see Nunu.
But shop, and actually has a Rod of Ages for this fight.
True Blink Spurster gets knocked away there. Ulti uses on Dredgeline, misses Shu, flashing to the side, but Fate's Call will re-engage as Zhang gonna get locked up, but Drizzle channels that ulti and does massive damage. Lupus come down, Amazing Days here as well, but Fizz does get the first kill, very slippery. Greyfish will secure the next kill as well. Amazing Day gets the double, but Lupa answers for the first. Now they're going back in as even Dade's going to join in. Raphael also coming in. Zhang gets low, will be denied as Dade just gets that kill. Chains onto Raphael, should keep him safe, and it's messy, but it's 2v2.
That was a crazy 2v2 fight. I'm hoping we see a replay. It's still on, though.
Raphael now coming in, though. Q landing there for Annie, but Dade gets the kill with the Ignite as a massive friend from SMLZ comes in.
Wow, that was a crazy fight. 3 for 2 is the result. The engage was crazy because what happened was the Annie, after getting picked flash aggressively to get a flash Tibbers onto Love CD, who was instantly Fate's called. I'd never seen an interaction like that, but the aggression from Annie did not pay off. 3 for 2 is the overall result. Most of the kills going to Dade has been so well held. Wait to watch the initiation on this fight. So, of course, Condi goes in aggressively, not knowing that Drizzle is there. Shu gets super low, but flashes aggressively to get a pick, misses the Tibbers target because Fate's Call comes through and the Callista's moved away. And now we finally get into what is a balanced fight. First to react is Lupa. Rod of Ages power fight. He's just freshly shopped, so he does have the shopping advantage. Amazing J, very slippy, does good damage in the backline, snipes away the Nautilus. But this is the go button. 3 low members against a Kalista means the Renset potential is super high. They finally get the last pick coming through, and Raphael does die as well, so the advantage goes through to M3.
Yeah, eventually dies. Dade almost got denied for that kill there by the... Oh, again, we talked about the interaction between Emperor's Divide and LeBlanc's Distortion, but not denied then. Amazing J, though, coming through that mid side. Lots of minions here, and he'll just rotate in for the tower, and it's dead.
It's an excellent global rotation. Definitely a season top lane. Zhanghao's picked out, but there's no depth charge
Great
available.
patience on the dredge line, though. Zhangha, though, will return with the ultimate, and with Drizzle and Shu in reserve, the Dragon now will looking to go to EP.
He just tries to dissuade the aggression with the use of the collateral damage. No kill pressure whatsoever, but it should buy them enough breathing room to steal the Dragon.
It does indeed, and second Dragon completed for Energy. Pacemaker, Looper off to the side, maybe looking to go in here. Condi gonna make something of a body slam, comes in, just tags Raphael. Ultimate back there, but denied there by Raphael. Dade dives back in though with the Distortions, able to get the kill for Condi actually, and aggression by M3 paying off in the red side jungle.
Yeah, enough gap closes and a very good use of the explosive cuts for engage purposes. Picks up the kill. It is to answer a Dragon though, so kill for Dragon, you definitely like that if you're EP. You're moving towards the super critical third Dragon pickup, but SMLZ, he's gone for the build I much prefer. He's got the Bloodthirsters, the one item power spike, not the best for team fighting, but at least he has a very sustainable laning phase to look forward to.
Yeah, and looking just fine now. 131 CS to the 113 there of Zhang Ao, so very healthy early game for this Kalista, and we talk about it a lot with Hurricane in particular. Going to be looking nice once she does get the 2-item power spike.
But it's worth knowing, just going back to my precise language I use, it's a good laning item for Kalista. This has been a very long laning phase. Bloodthirster before laning phase ended, okay, that wouldn't have been crazy a year ago, but with Bloodthirster being so much more expensive, you usually don't have it that early, but given the long laning phase, Bloodthirster by far the ideal choice. You're not looking to team fight yet, but Hurricane's only 2,500 gold purchase. Get there while the laning phase continues, as there might be a pick and top.
Dade's hit chain is going to follow. Amazing Day locked up forever, but an amazing fish to follow by the Fizz keeps him safe. Dade in a chase in there.
Needs another chain.
Does have the blue buff, misses the chain. Great juke by Amazing J, and good play by both mages, but the Fizz looks a little better there.
Yeah, good Fizz mechanics. Very, very sloppy. It was smart to juke towards the minion line, instead of being towards the turret. Dade has a distortion out. A lot of pressure being put on by M3, though.
Yeah, hypermobile carries as SMLZ gets a kill onto Annie there. Condi came in there. Good gank pressure, and that's going to keep Kalista even further ahead.
I'll let you fill in the blanks by the fact that the Fate's Core and Depth Charge were both used. I'm going to guess 3 or 4 CCs chained onto the Annie caused the pick. I'm sure we'll get a replay at some point, but still, an extra kill. Suddenly the Hurricane, that mid-game course, getting closer and closer.
Raphael clearing out some minions, but starting to get pushed in more by Dade, who's leaving the lane more aggressively now. And, you know, he is ahead in CS. Raphael will scale up nicely here on the Azir, but now that Dade's kind of been let off the leash a little bit here. That's bad news for EP, as Drizzle will actually find Dade, who gets out of the absolute zero. Looper now in here as well. Chain did finish there as Drizzle's forced to run away. Looper running down. That's actually Rod of Ages. Haven't seen that in forever.
Yeah, he had it completed before that crazy tussle on the bottom that got Dade snowballing. Got 2 kills from it, so finally has enough items and cooldown reduction to realistically go for these side engages. So the Rod of Ages is, as you mentioned, a very different pickup. We've seen so much more Righteous Glory. I think we're going to get a replay of the pick. So that's a knock-up from Fate's Call. The ultimate actually doesn't go down to the Annie, but hell, we've got plenty of CC there.
Yeah, just zones the Graves off there. Easiest friend of SMLZ's life. And as he popped back in, that bottom tower also went down just before the last little engage. So M3 starting to pressure some of these advantages. Only 1,000 gold ahead, but they're playing like they're quite a bit more ahead, I have to say.
So Righteous Glory wasn't picked up. I guess you have the guaranteed initiation coming through from the depth charge and the chains and the pick options in general coming through from Nautilus, from Condi as well, and Gragas not even mentioned in that area. In 5 minutes, there's a lot of power spikes to be talked about, because that's when the Rod of Ages will be complete. And judging by that recurve, bro, probably going to be when the Hurricane is complete. Suddenly, after a very good early game, the next Dragon, it might actually be a bridge too far for this EP team.
Condi here on the top side as well. We actually have SMLZ joining in with Nautilus as well. Amazing J going to take a couple CCs to knock him up. A good ulti there from Gragas. Now going to follow through. The dredge line comes in. Fate's Call used as well, but Amazing J flashed out of the way, and he's safe.
Yeah, smart flash. So slippery as that Fizz, just not ignite teleport. You saw it there very plainly. The flash saved his life.
Yeah, good stuff there. SMLZ, though, rotated in. Going to try and take out some more turret damage here again. No Hurricane, but plenty of early pushing power here with the Bloodthirster in particular, and that tower's far too low. It will fall to M3.
They have to respect the potential of the Annie initiate. Zhu is here, has Flash Tibbers available. Will they overextend? No, they don't. And I have a bit of a wry smile page time because it's actually been surprisingly long since we last saw double Flash Teleport top laners.
It has actually. We've seen a lot of Cinderhulk with the Smite Teleport. Seen plenty of Ignite Teleport as well, but returning again back to basics here a little bit for these teams is Nautilus caught out slightly there. Will get stunned up. The Dredgeline to Terrain. Very nice gap close there to get him out to safety. And Amazing J joined in, but not quite in range when the fight started.
So a minute 20 until Dragon. I feel like if Hurricane can be picked up, it should be a fight for Master3, even though we won't see the Rod of Ages fully transformed to that point. Looking very strong in general is Looper at this point with 7 stacks of that Rod of Ages completed. But as far as I can tell, not quite going to hit that gold par just yet. Or if he does, will arrive very late, the Dragon.
We've seen strong items actually come out across the board for M3 here. So we checked in with Looper. We looked down. Condi just finished the Aegis now as well. So looking good for that tanky utility style build that we saw from him in Game 1. Rico Bo there with the Bloodthirster for SMLZ. So just fine, going to have the Hurricane money completed very soon. But Dade, he just got his Sorceress, but he has an Aether Wisp in his inventory.
And there's only one item that makes sense, Page Time. It's all about the Luden's Echo once again. So many spellcasts with your 40% cooldown reduction builds. You know, with the ability to mimic a spell, add a bit more burst with the Luden's Echo. It's not quite DFG. It doesn't fit LeBlanc as well as that item did, but hell, it's still pretty good.
Yeah, just fine here, and that snowball following LeBlanc quite far there through the distortion. M3 starting to clear out vision, though. Want to make sure they deny the third dragon away from Energy Pacemaker, who've actually got some good item timings as well. Amazing J had his Trinity Force for a couple of minutes now with the Merc Shreds plus the Ruby Crystal. Skirmisher Saber already we talked about with Drizzle, but has the Cinderhulk done as well. Need to see large Rod here for Raphael, not going for the early boots like Dade did. A bit more raw damage that he wants right now, and Zeal IE there done for Zhang. It's going to be a big fight, but M3 have already started this dragon.
And one thing to note, as we're going to see a fight, the Aegis completed once again, Snowball Aegis. Quadruple AP lineup could be relevant.
Amazing J's coming in, but Looper's going to join in. Dragon does go to Kalista there, so M3 pick it up. Fish on the ground, though. Fate's Call going to move him out of the way. Drizzle trying to zone them off, but they're actually on top of Amazing J, trying to get the kill. The Fist still alive, though. Dade will finally get him, and it's just kills everywhere. Dade diving forward onto Shu, does get that next kill. There's the double for LeBlanc. Now Raphael going to get chased down. Dredgeline just short there, but Dade, plenty of gap closes left. SMLZ gets another kill, and that's 4 for 0.
And SMLZ deserves a caller. Actually was able to use the Martial Poise to avoid the Flash Tibbers coming through from Annie. The Aegis did so much work that fight, because look at these members. Even though you've got Trinity Force, a lot of magic damage from Fizz, the Channel of the Ultimate, the Absolute Zero, is a lot of early damage coming through from Nunu, and then Annie and Azir have to be respected. So I love the fact that Condi's got this Aegis once again. Just watch the replay of this fight. These members, even Nautilus, this lasts such a long time. Once Condi can apply the Aegis, they get the Dragon, importantly, to start the fight. So as the fight goes on, it's Looper on a very, very tanky Hecarim, but just wait in the backline for SMLZ to just sidestep. Honestly, to some degree, it's probably a missed Tibbers as well, you have to mention, but this is a Kalista. We have to respect the consistent damage. Comes back in, Dade in the front line. LeBlanc, again, we see why it's one of his champion pool, and it's a really good fight, and won landslidely by Master3.
Yeah, I think one of the small things there, Drizzle going in for the consume really hurt EP in that fight because he was so far forward in the Dragon Pit. Channeled his ulti because that's all he could do, but the rest of M3 were kind of already around him, initiating on the rest of his team.
Yeah, no space control able to put out there. Just an emergency use of the Absolute Zero. Don't feel SMLZ has shopped in a while. Still hasn't really turned that recurve bow into anything, but clearly hasn't hit the item timing, or at least felt forced to go back.
No, just fine right now. Continuing to farm strong here in this game. Up actually the highest CS in the game so far, tying with Graves, as they've both done very well here in this mid-game section. Hurricane now completed, though. There's the money spent that we expected, and Dade starting to aggressively look for picks. Got the need to see large rod. Luden's Echo not far away.
And it's surprising, but it feels like EP are the team that needs to manufacture picks just to deal with SMLZ in the backline. Look at these item timing. Bloodthirster, Hurricane, even a QSS as well. If you can't dive that backline, and remember, we're only really talking about Fizz and an opportunistic Annie Tibbers to get onto SMLZ, especially now with the QSS, meaning another defensive option. SMLZ lives, you've got a one-tank lineup, and that tank's just a Nunu with health. The Ren sets, we haven't seen them for a week, but triple, quadra kills, all on the menu here for SMLZ.
Yeah, and looking good, and honestly set up well by Condi. I love that you mentioned the Snowball Aegis that really helped in that last fight. But you know what I love about the Snowball Aegis, Papa Smithy? Snowball lock it. If you snowball the first team fight, you often get to lock it. It's even better with that shield.
And that's definitely the statistic you're looking for on Gragas is the cooldown reduction. If you're not going for an AP burst build, you're going for just the utility of using your spells. You have a lot of CC on your kit, slows on your Q, the W another one. Then, of course, you got so much mobility as you max the E over on the next levels. Gragas has a lot of utility. Even the barrel being on a shorter cooldown suits M3 just fine.
And we mentioned Luden's Echo for LeBlanc, but Raphael's doing the same thing here on Azir. I don't remember which Need to See item Dade finished with in that last game, but it could have been a Luden's that he just didn't get to, but that's Raphael's first major item here after Athene's.
Looper's got the 10 stack, had to flash away defensively as 400 wards are put down, it feels like, and a couple of soldiers. I don't know about Luden's Echo coming out onto Azir, just because, of course, the auto attacks from the Sand Soldiers, I don't believe they count as spells necessarily. They might do. I'm willing to be corrected, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it fits the comp, but I'm willing to be convinced.
Love City maybe caught, but Looper trying to peel off Fate's Call there just in time, as Nautilus will get to safety, but the siege is on now for Energy Pacemaker. Dade's split pushing in the bottom lane.
Dade's split pushing on the bottom. It's been forced back. I don't even know if he can deal with a Fizz with Trendy Force in a burst versus burst duo. The Q, of course, was targeted, but was still too late, so the back still goes through. The Sand turret falls down, but still no other big advantages for EP.
No, M3 just pushing the waves back out here. Hurricane Kalista doing work right now.
Double Echo.
I mean, yeah, Echoes everywhere here as Dade just finished his. Could see a lot of aggressive wave clear coming through as Dade will get on top of the blue buff. And you can see it's going to go down pretty swiftly here regardless. But M3 have all the tools they need to really get a good mid-game fight going here. And maybe Dragon, that's the next pressure point for them.
So many different spell rotations coming through from Dade that you can see the Luden's Echo potentially being quite useful. It gives them a bit more wave clear, and that's probably the one thing that Master3 don't have the most of. They require quite a lot on short-range wave clear from SMLZ and Looper to some degree to clear their waves. So it's potential that Luden's Echo might actually be a good pickup. I'm not convinced. I feel like the death cap just builds more naturally, and even though LeBlanc's AP ratios was slightly, and I emphasize slightly, tuned down in patch 5.6, feels like the death cap's still more damage.
I mean, the funny thing for me is that Luden's certainly feels much more like a sustained damage item, which is common in 5.6, right? Trust Dade to build the teamfight item here. Is Dade actually going to get caught by the fish? Couldn't get out of it with Distortion. Will mimic away, but Amazing J chasing it. A good flash for Dade, but Amazing J says, no more tricks, please, and auto-attacks him in the face.
Yeah, the playful Trickster was definitely the one to spot the correct LeBlanc and just DPS him down. It was a poor return to the Mimic, you have to say, from Dade. It looked like he didn't have any options. I feel like he didn't need to be quite so cute, and the result is just a free kill over to Amazing J.
Yeah, a little too aggressive, so Luden's Echo not helping there in that situation. And Spirit Visage has been completed by Looper. Looking through for some other major items. Phantom Dancer done for Zhang Ao, so looking strong there. Nunu still building up, but looking for that next major item to follow in after the Boots, Saber, and the Sight Stone.
And we have to consider, what does this Rod of Ages provide Maokai? For one thing, you can tell he's obviously super tanky at this point, but I mean, with the extra AP, his wave clear is stronger. He does more damage in the middle of a fight. It's going to be hard to account for Rod of Ages Maokai just because we've seen so little of it in the past month, 5 weeks of the LPL, that it might actually do surprising things in a fight. And the one thing you can say is health stack at this point. It's huge.
Yeah, Looper's crept up to a very strong game so far. Had a great early landing phase. Didn't really suffer in the matchup like we first saw the AD Fizz that Zatai was playing that we mentioned already. Even a Warden's Mail here as well, just for extra tanky stats, mean Looper is very threatening at this stage of the game.
And the Graves, I mean, mostly burst related, a health stack, armor coming through. He's not even going to tickle Looper.
No, and this is definitely M3's time to fight around for this Dragon. It will be their second of the game if they're able to clean it up, which would equalize on Dragons here against EP, but the fight's starting up and M3 are already on the Dragon.
Operation Amazing J, kill SMLZ is all EP can hope for.
Well, Dragon going to get low, but Drizzle steals it. Misplay there from M3 with all their security, but Looper diving into the backline trying to find their target, but M3, they get nothing there.
And EP are happy to just get away. They don't want to opt into a 5v5 fight with the item timings that have come through from SMLZ. That steal could prove critical. It's the third Dragon coming through from EP. The rotations now will be just that much more on point. They go to pick up their blue buffs, and M3 will be kind of scratching their heads, wondering how that happened.
Dade very aggressive, going in towards an Annie who has her stun shot. Going to get aggressive, get stunned away though. Zhang Ao going to move back in, but Looper's now dove on top. Condi goes in aggressive, a good flash, so keeps them safe. M3 might get the tower, should be able to take it away, but no kills there. And another barrel moves in. Now Amazing J coming through, finds the fish, I believe, onto Nautilus as SMLZ gets knocked away by a Drizzle, getting low in and amongst all the damage though, as Amazing J gets exhausted and is forced away. Dade round to the side, trying to flank, but just missing the chain. Pierce not going to confirm the kill, so just the turret for M3.
Just the turret could have been so much worse. SMLZ was free hitting the whole time, but the Ren set, the first kill, importantly, did not come through to the Kalista, so EP able to back away. Go back to clearing waves, getting an inner turret. That's a much better result for M3. Still, the trade for the third dragon, probably not ideal, but that's the result.
Yeah, losing that dragon
wow,
means
that's
that
a lot of wave clear.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if Dade wants to split push or just push waves out, Luden's Echo, not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, with the Mimic Distortion, or just the Distortion probably at this point on the Luden's Echo, you're talking instant wave clear. So I never thought that LeBlanc really struggled in the melee range wave clear, but certainly looks impressive.
Yeah, Dade just going to, you know what, need even more wave clear, and I'm very curious to see what he does pick up as his next major item here. Blasting one could be anything Papa Smithy.
I mean, in general, I mean, I feel like mids are just going Echo happy at this point, just trying on a lot of different champions. There'll definitely be champions like Cat, for example, and Ari to some degree that seem to really benefit from a Luden's Echo rush. But as a second, a third item, I just feel like if you're going to go for the 20% CDR, Merlinomicon, or the Athene's Unholy Grail, just go for the prototypical build. Get the Death Cap and get the big stack of AP.
I mean, we've certainly seen a lot of 6th item Luden's Echo,
sure,
just because it's, you know, the third big AP item that you can buy.
6th item, first item, absolutely. I know those are polarizing things, but either rush it or get it later and get the Death Cap second or third.
Yeah, so Dade struggling a bit with AP damage potentially, but building in towards his next major item. Raphael, same build actually, went Athene's Luden's Echo now with a blasting one. So interesting stuff happening here in the mid lane as we look through.
I don't know why Lupa has 2 Warden's Mails.
Lupa really likes Warden's Mail.
Okay, but that effect is unique, as I know you know already, Pastry Time, so I feel like he misclicked the Glacial Shroud in this situation. CDR will be doing a lot of duty. Of course, one of the wonderful things about Glacial Shroud, cheap, gives you offensive stats because CDR usually used offensively, and of course the defensive stats, and yeah, it's only giving him the 40 armor at this point.
Yeah, not too sure. Can you build Randuin's and Frozen Heart out of those 2 items?
I mean, you can, but like building the Warden's Mail, you might as well just have a Ruby Crystal, right, at that point.
Yeah, I mean, or the Shroud, like you mentioned. Interesting stuff from Lupa, but we'll see how it develops here. Is Amazing J going to take out the Raptors? Getting quite strong, actually, on the Fizz. Does have a Banshee's Veil now to accompany his Trinity Force and the Glacial Shroud, so looking good on the Fizz, and it's been doing solid damage so far. SMLZ also with a Last Whisper done, so 3 damage items now, up versus, I guess, 2.5 right now for Zhang Graves. I mean, M3, again, they've had the tools to fight for quite a while. They're 6,000 gold ahead or so, maybe even a bit more as we look through, but they just haven't, for whatever reason, wanted to be very proactive in fighting.
And you feel like this game will give us a window into whether Kalista is that late game threat we know her to be, or whether she actually matches Graves more in terms of a mid-game spike into struggling late game. Although at Master3, they have a lot of Baron damage.
They really do, and that's going to force the port from Amazing J. He's already used it, but M3 now grouped together can look to fight if they want. Pierce does break the Banshee's Veil. He'd be taking away some of their jungle, and M3 will reset again.
I was just tracking Lupa as that Pierce came through, wondering if he was looking for the engage, but no, he's in mid, just wave clearing. Wasn't looking for a flank of any type, despite being relatively unkillable, even with the poor purchase of the second Warden's Mail.
Great pink ward there from EP, but Loop is the one that checks it, so no engage possible there for Energy Pacemaker. Don't really want to fish the Maokai, that's not where you want to be. M3 pushing in as well, Nautilus running the front lane. They're getting quite tanky, actually, and again, M3, plenty of good tools, some great engage, especially from the support role here, but just haven't really pushed it.
I mean, you talk about pushing advantages, but look at these 2 team comps. They're both reactive comps. You can tell from Azir and Nunu that EP are happy for Master3 to dive on them. You look for initiation on the Master3 side. Unless they get massive ward control and can force the picks from either Love CD or Dade in particular with his big burst of AP, in a 5v5 in an open lane like the mid lane, they have little to no engage whatsoever. So it feels like it's all a battle of wards, Pastry Time. It's the team that gets the ward advantage around the neutrals. I mean, looking, we see good defensive wards coming through from EP. Not many wards at all coming through from Master3. If Master3 don't manage to capitalize on warding, this game could go either way. Whichever team gets picked, there's a lot of damage behind them, most of it's short range. It's going to be crazy team fights, but if EP have them on their terms, I feel like they have the slightly better comp at dealing with Master3.
Yeah, Amazing J done with the Warden's Mail now as well, so building in towards that Frozen Heart, which much needed CDR more than anything there for the Fizz. Lupa again, his double Warden's Mail. Wonder what he'll finish first of those first 2 items. Again, maybe he just likes the way it looks. Blade of the Ruin King, though, done for SMLZ, and he's getting quite strong on Kalista.
Just the Bilge Water, not the Blade just yet. Not quite that much gold. That would definitely be a bit too crazy at this point. Master3 definitely have the run of the enemy jungle. They're stealing away the red buffs. We were kind of comparing them to King and wondering where they'd go in terms of buff control. And enemy buff control been pretty good for Master3.
Yeah, Dragon back up as well, so they're going to take their second and most certainly deny the fourth away from Energy Pacemaker.
What will they trade for? As you can see, Drizzle moving towards the Baron. They already have Scuttle Crab. They get the pink ward down. Okay, they won't be able to steal away. In fact, the Callista Sentinels doing a lot of work in this situation. So second Dragon, definitely something you're happy to give up as EP.
Yeah, and SMLZ soloing it right now. That leaves the rest of M3 to get EP off this potential trade Baron. There's the second Dragon coming through for Master3 as Looper has finished up his Frozen Heart, still has that spare Warden's Mail, so all of a sudden looked a bit silly before, but he is super tanky right now.
At this point, you can accept it. It's all fine. Nothing ever happened. Don't worry about it, Looper. You're still a world champion. Can't take that away from you. You're looking at Zhu on Annie. Zhu, it looks like he's going to be going for the absolute movement speed build. Not the talisman just yet, but I mean the boots of mobility, the distortion boots, going to be the righteous glory from those pickups. He's going for Operation Kill this Callista.
And they do need some engage here. You mentioned EP's comp, little lacking in that department. Got plenty of sticky and annoying people with the Fizz, with the Nunu. We just need to set up a bit better. M3, though, getting wards down. Still on top of a ward, unfortunately, for them. So, going to have to wait for sweepers to clear that back out. And, again, lots of side wave management now becoming quite a bit more important. Almost 35 minutes into this game. Going quite late here. And the gold lead that M3 have, that will dip in significance as the game drags on.
I guess Master3 are kind of happy they were forced to back up because you look at the side waves, they're actually really pushing towards EP's side. They were definitely pushing in towards Master3. They had to back away and manicure those waves, prune them a little bit, as you can see LeBlanc only on the mini-map. She goes over those minions and they explode.
Yeah, I don't think you should really complain about side wave management or lack thereof when you have a Luden's Echo LeBlanc dotting
I mean, you can't manage them unless you're over there. So they bought time enough to get LeBlanc into the bottom lane. No answering Baron pressure coming through from EP. A bit of posturing, but no Baron started just yet.
True, you have to be there to supervise your employees, of course. So Dade going to the lane, making sure he takes care of business.
Are we sure that his minions are the ones he kills or his teammates, pastry time?
I'm not too sure.
You never know when Dade and friends.
It's a very interesting corporation, the Dade Corporation. Curious management there going through as we do see wave clear coming in M3. Plenty of good solid wave clear between the Hurricane and now the Rabadon's Death Cap.
Look at the levels. Dade's level 18, I believe.
Yeah, he's been firing up a storm. I think that it's 18 or 16. Very high on the levels.
The monitors sometimes getting us. We know what jungle enchants they have this time, page time. It's all good.
We managed to figure that one out. And again, big experience across the board, actually. 18 done for Raphael. That must be 18 there for Dade as well. 17 even for Amazing J. This game's gone late here at 36 minutes. Some decent wards around here for EP, sneaking some vision into the Baron.
I love that pink ward that the Observer was showing. It's one of those ones, it's just not a brush that you don't check that often unless you're sieging, say, an outer top turret very early. This is in full vision. I mean, double vision at this one. This is a risky Baron despite all the secure damage. But Dade, he finds Annie.
Assassinate Shu and Amazing J doesn't have a teleport crucially here.
They're rushing it down.
Point, they are going to try to go in. The teleport finally comes through. Drizzle going to use his ulti. Can they finish the Baron? They're going to try for it. It's going to get low here. SMLZ gets fished away, but the Baron does go to Drizzle and the rest of EP. But the fight's still breaking out here. Amazing J getting low. Dade already fell. So did Love CD. It's actually a massacre at this point as Looper cleans up and Baron got stolen, but Looper gets a triple.
It's really sloppy play from Master3. When we last saw the Baron, even with the engage starting, it was over 4,000 health. You need to disengage. Get away from all those Baron boards. They still, because they're so far ahead, and again, no one can deal with SMLZ. They still do pick up the team fight when the tanking of the turret will start. If they get this inhibitor turret, it was sloppy, but it'll still work out for sure.
Yeah, completed the ace. Going to get some structures now as well. Condi, a little low there, but Happy Hour will keep him safe. SMLZ getting on top of the turret, takes it out. Inhibitor potentially getting taken now as Looper comes in. Shu actually diving in, gets the kill with the Tibbers burn out onto the Gragas and SMLZ. He wants it, but he can't have it.
And it'll be a free kill at this point because they're not even going to trade it for that inhibitor. They trade it for an objective as they do take the outer top turret. Things looking good for Master3, but they need to definitely watch those engages, watch their choices, and especially their calls around Baron. They needed to disengage much earlier than they did. It still worked out so far, but EP are not out of this game just yet.
No, 7,500 gold to lead for M3, but again, that difference is getting less and less significant as we trot on to almost the 40-minute mark in this particular game. Big items for the AD carries coming through. BF sold their extra, and we're going to see a replay of that Baron fight.
Look how healthy the Baron is. This is not the time to try to skewer. SMLZ is actually auto-attacking the Baron this whole time. The fish comes onto him, QSS'd away, and he manages to move away from that fish. So they're able to focus on Drizzle, who stole the Baron, so hey, you know, whatever. It still works out for EP in that situation. But SMLZ, the kiting away from the Fizz was majestic on the Kalista. Only person left is Raphael. Maokai's not going to die anytime soon. Has about 7,000 health, but the engage's back on.
They're getting trapped though now, actually locked up as well. Will go down to Raphael, but Azir will follow there to Nautilus as Lupus come down as well with the teleport.
Lupa does a lot of damage.
He really does. He's massive right now on the Maokai. Jumps in onto Zhang and just dishing out the deeps here. Love City will run in, but he's also very tanky. Shoot the next target, and Lupa.
He's buying time for Kalista.
Yeah, unrelenting here is SMLZ finally waddling down there. Another W from Lupus. Used so many so far. Bates Cole will get him in range for the dredge line. SMLZ cleaning out that kill. Zhang retaliates. An amazing J gets the kill onto Nautilus, but QSS popped there by SMLZ. Fades them out and used a little late shoe. Somehow gets away very late. And a messy 2-for-2 trade.
Pastry time. Lupa is so huge on this Maokai, doing both damage and consistent CC. 30, 40% CDR with this Spirit Visage and the Frozen Heart, minimum of 30. The AP stacking means he's doing relevant damage. Of course, W does scale on AP, doing maximum health damage. Doing very, very relevant damage at this point, and bought time for SMLZ to re-engage. So the communication, the target selection, all on point. Much better, Master3.
It's been a while since we've seen the Rod of Ages Maokai. We talked about it, but there's a reason why you don't let teams get away with it. It's terrifying.
He was just taking no damage at all. Randuin's 10-stack Rod of Ages, Spirit Visage, Frozen Heart. Hell, he's got an extra Negatron Cloak into what you would assume is a Guardian Angel, or perhaps a ZZ Rot.
I'm ready for Abyssal Scepter.
Hilarious. I mean, Abyssal Scepter's not the worst choice. No Abyssal Scepter coming through from Dade. My goodness, this Maokai is here to play.
Yeah, Lupa quietly just crept up to 5-0 and 9. And you can understand why Energy Pacemaker wanted to ban it away in game 1. Now the fight will break out again, going on to amazing J potentially as he takes a bit of poke from Dade. Righteous Glory pop by Shu to get his teammates out of that situation. Dragon here as well. It will be the third for M3, but the fourth crucially for EP. Can Drizzle steal it again? SMLZ's filling it with spears though, and EP want nothing to do with it.
You just can't look for a contest. You can't look for a choice steal, because if you die, the death time is more relevant than a third dragon buff by far. EP just have to scurry away. And the worry from EP is they're against a Kalista. We've seen teams outscale Kalistas, but this is not a team to outscale Kalista. Only two members building Frozen Heart in this situation. No health stacking, no other armor purchases. The Ren sets are going to be relevant throughout the game. And EP, honestly, I'm not really sure how they win a fight unless really diving on Azir goes horribly wrong for M3.
I mean, Nunu is excellent against Kalista, but I feel like Condi's Gragas again. There's too much power in so keeping everyone safe. You can split up carries if you need to. You can put people into your team. The Gragas ultimate just does so much work in a very short-range comp for M3.
It's such a unique power, because it's not even power in items, not power in abilities. It's power in one ability, the Explosive Cast, as you mentioned, just ruining the positioning. The Frozen Heart, sorry, the Banshee Veil from Amazing J definitely needs to stay before that Explosive Cast comes out, because if he's displaced, if he has to use his Playful Tricks just to get onto an enemy target, doesn't have it for any semblance of self-peel, slow, whatever you want to use that ability for, it's going to really hurt their team fighting.
I found the Abyssal Scepter, by the way. Love City happens to have one.
Well, that's silly, but he has it.
They need the aura, I guess. He's like, oh, can I build natives? Like, no, we have one of those. Frozen
So
Heart.
what does
no,
Lupa
Lupa
build?
Had 2 of those.
Give me that ZZ Rot. I want to see it in competitive play. Start pushing out those ends. Probably going to be Guardian Angel, but look, he's already not going to die. So I think Guardian Angel, not really necessary apart from the statistics it provides.
No, probably doesn't need it, but we'll see what he wants to go for. Lupa has a couple of options at his disposal here. Kind of curious to see that he didn't want a Warmog series his last item, but going back to spend some money, we'll see what he wants.
He's got the cash dollars, needs about 2,000 gold, then he has his choice of items. Has to be the Guardian Angel. You'd expect maybe just another Abyssal Scepter just to separate the threats, be even more of a damage threat in this situation. Going to have a nice stack of AP, not quite Dade tier, but relevant damage, especially with the extra magic pen.
I was getting so hyped for ZZ Rock Portal.
One day.
So disappointed here.
If we can't get in the LPL, we'll never get anywhere.
That's fair. As M3 are pushing out. Do have the Baron buff still, I believe. Nope, never mind. Baron back in a minute. No Baron anywhere. There's plenty of purple auras confusing me from all those Abyssal Scepters that have found their way into inventories. SMLZ, massive, by the way, now with that Blade of the Ruin King finished. And this has been the major Kalista build that we've seen.
It's in the game of purple. We see the Gromp buff is actually on Condi. In general, the Baron's been riding around a lot. There's been Luden's Echo procs happening everywhere on the map. Purple's definitely in vogue in Week 11 of the LPL. 10,000 gold lead is massive, but they still don't have that engage, so there's still that potential that the turtle will be on from EP, and the split push is certainly so far being successful.
I like that you noticed gifted the Toadstool there, that grunt buff that's got away. That's actually excellent on Gragas in this situation with Cinderhold.
Yeah, I mean, Cinderhold, as you mentioned, it does a lot of work. The grunt buff is actually being nerfed, I believe, on patch 5.8, which is a couple of patches away. Knowing China, that's a next season thing, but it's coming through.
Sometime. Raphael in the top lane. Luden Zeko is there with those autos as well. Plenty of massive wave clear. Not quite instant, but very strong at this stage. EP don't need that much in this game. Just one big team fight where M3 maybe make a mistake.
But what are they scaling to? Like, what's the item pickup? What's the big factor for them? I don't necessarily see it. There's so much to respect from Graves that you're never going to be able to use quick draw offensively for the attack speed steroid. Graves will suffer from the same short range problems. I mean, Dade may get outscaled, but interesting what his last purchase is. I imagine a Void Staff just for more relevant damage. But you feel Master3 just wait for the time when they have exclusive vision, force a pick around Baron, which is now respawned. And from that pick, they should easily win a team fight. I just don't see how EP, barring some real, poor plays in terms of, poor vision play, I guess, for Master3, can win a fight. I
mean, it's the top lane is here for both sides that I guess are the big problems. Looper is massive on the Maokai. Still hasn't died at 509. Makes sense that he didn't want to go for the GA. Absolutely terrifying on the tree at this point of the game. And Amazing J, if he can get on top of the carries, he'll do good work, but he's struggling to just get in at this point.
But you can see what's going to happen. You poke around, then disengage to EP. They're just going to push up mid. They don't want to take a fight, so they'll keep disengaging away. They're waiting for a Master3 overextension, a Master3 mistake. Look at these summoner spells. I believe there's 20 summoner spells available on the map at this point. We're just waiting for this eventual fight. It's going to be cataclysmic.
Yeah, every cooldown is available right now. Active items, summoner spells, ultimates, you name it. They've got it here, and it's all going to culminate in a massive Baron fight here.
As long as Loop is tanking it, it's fine.
Yeah, M3 will start it again, but they have to disengage this time. Amazing J going to get poked, just missing.
The Dredge
over Condi, flashing forward. They get some knockout from the body slam, but goes down to Zanga. Fates call U0 as well as SMLC is trying to disengage, and Looper just massive in the backline. Amazing J dives in, but gets exhausted. Raphael trying to make the difference. Dade still alive. That's his Mimic. No, never mind. That team, he's dead. And they've done it. M3 get aced.
And that's the big mistake coming through from Master3. Condi bit off more than he could chew. There was communication problems between Condi and SMLZ. SMLZ kept DPSing the Baron because he didn't expect a fight to come out, and then was just zoned from the whole fight. Eventually, actually, by the Azir, who just used the ultimate to split him away from Looper. Looper died, and EP, they're going to win this game.
Yeah, this game's over. Condi 30 seconds away. Plenty of damage for EP. The Amazing J in your bottom left puts his hands on the back of his head and starts to celebrate because they know that they've stolen another game. And we talked about it. The best of two format punishes you for losing the second game when you're a game up. And M3, those playoff dreams are a little closer to dead now.
M3 are devastated. We knew it was going to be an M3 mistake just because there was no engage whatsoever coming through from EP. Gragas, Condi just had a cold rush of blood to the head, went for the engage away from his team. Azir played that fight so smartly, using the Emperor's Divide purely to keep the Kalista away from the fight, and that's the win to EP. WE still alive. Dade also just completely disheartened after that loss. Master3, they still have another series. They're still odds on to get through, but if Starhorn Royal Club beat IG in the next series 2-0, it's game on again.
Yeah, you saw Dade there looking particularly upset. That's fairly common. He's a big emotional player, especially when he loses, but he just flopped his head on the desk in agony almost there at the end of that game. He could smell it. He could smell the 2-0 and the 3 points, and it's not just M3 that things look a little shaky now moving into their playoff charge. Woodlit and Royal all of a sudden got real big smiles on their faces.
And it's not a caster phrase I'm a fan of, but it really feels like M3 were winning till they lost. They were so far ahead. They had everything going. They had the pick options. They had the control of Baron. They just needed to not make a mistake, and Condi overreaching. It won the game for EP.
And that opens up a big lead for our next match, actually. Starhorn Royal Club are waiting to see if their playoff dreams can stay alive, but they have a hard match coming up after the break against Invictus Gaming.